So good day everyone, my name is Nina Shanesoy and I will be tackling first about the introduction to middle adulthood. So what is middle adulthood? Middle adulthood is when we define in chronological terms as the years between 40 and 65. It is marked by growing individuals' differences and a multiplicity of life paths. Also, this can be a time of decline and loss, and it can be a time of mastery, competence, and growth. So why do we see middle adulthood as a social construct? It is because its age range, roles, and meaning can vary across cultures and life periods. It is shaped more by societal expectations like career, family, and life transitions than biology. So all of this are shaped by human perceptions. So why is it also seen as a time of decline and loss and a time of mastery, competence, and growth? Because people experience mix of challenges and opportunities during this stage of life. So it can be a time of mastery, competence, and growth. It is because people in this stage can reach the peak of their career already through their high skills and experiences. They have greater emotional intelligence. Many find new purpose through mentoring, creativity, and community involvement. Financial stability and more autonomy in personal life are common. Personal reflection can lead to psychological growth and better understanding in this time. Why is it also seen as a time of loss and decline? It is because in this stage, physical change begins, health concerns may arise or increase, reproductive changes, losses like death of parents and emptiness, or career disappointments can happen. And lastly, some people experience midlife crisis or feelings of regret. So in this stage also, there are physical changes that occur. So these are sensory functioning, physical fitness, the brain at midlife, structural and systematic changes, and sexuality and reproductive functioning. So sensory functioning is when maapektuhan atong senses, sight, smell, taste, hear, and touch. So these are examples of naapektuhan ang senses. These are presbyopia, myopia, presbyosis, and sensitivity to taste and smell. So presbyopia and myopia are it involves sight, because presbyopia is the difficulty in focusing near objects, and myopia is the nearsightedness. Sa presbyosis is also the ears, because this is called the gradual hearing loss. So for physical fitness, staying physically active is one way to maintain your health in that stage. So during middle adulthood, physical fitness generally declines, but the degree of change depends on lifestyle, genetics, and health habits. So what typically happens in this change? So muscle mass and strength decrease, metabolism slows down, flexibility and joint health decrease. So kana is when joint becomes stiff and risk of arthritis occurs. So bone density declines, cardiovascular and respiratory efficiency decline. This is when your heart and lungs become less efficient, which affects your endurance and aerobic capacity. And lastly, vision and hearing begins to decline. So mao nitong presbyopia and presbyosis. So these won't happen if you start changing your lifestyle today, so that you won't have the difficulty to have physically active lifestyle when you grow up, when you reach that stage in life already. So the brain at midlife. During midlife, the brain undergoes both subtle declines and areas of continued growth and stability. So what typically happens are processing speed slows, memory is affected, multitasking becomes harder. So sa processing speed slows, it takes time to have the task because reaction time decreases. So sa memory, in this stage, occasionally it is normal to forget names and misplace items because maapektuhan ang short term, but it doesn't mean that long term also is affected. Long term memory remains mostly intact. So for multitasking becomes harder, dividing attention between tasks may be more difficult than in younger years. It is because processing speed slows, working memory declines, and it is harder to shift attention between the task. The brain also is dali na siya makapuyan. That's why multitasking makes more mentally demanding. So for the structural and systematic change, so mao ni ang mga changes na to physically change na to nga makita gyud nato externally. So this is kana mga change in skin and hair, gains weight, bone density, heart diseases emerges, body temperature, and sleep affected by age. So for the sexuality and reproductive functioning, so during middle adulthood, sexuality and reproductive functioning go through noticeable changes, influenced by aging, hormonal shifts, and lifestyle factors. So when reproductive functioning declines, women experience menopause, usually between 45 to 55 in age, marking the end of menstruation and fertility. Also for women, hormonal changes like lower estrogen and progesterone can cause symptoms like hot flashes, vaginal dryness, and mood changes. So for the men, gradual decline in testosterone levels, which may lead to reduced sperm quality, liver limbo, or erectile difficulties through fertility usually continues. So for shadow longitudinal study is that it shows that most mental abilities stay stable or improve until around age 60. Crystallized intelligence like vocabulary often increases, while fluid intelligence like problem-solving speed gradually declines. So cognitive aging varies by individual and is influenced by health, education, and lifestyle. So for the difference between crystallized intelligence and fluid intelligence is that crystallized intelligence are learned knowledge that grows with age, while fluid intelligence are raw problem-solving power that declines with age. It will be further explained by the next reporter. In this table, this is the test of primary mental abilities given in the study of Seattle of adult intelligence. So the first test is verbal meaning. So ang gigamit na nga type of intelligence is crystallized because they find a synonym word by matching the stimulus word with another word from a multiple choice. So i-match nimo ang synonym word nga naa sa pikas nga column with the word nga naa pud sa pikas nga column. So this is recognition and understanding of words. So this is learned knowledge also. That is why it is called crystallized. So word fluency, this is partly crystallized and partly fluid because they were tasked or they were asked to give many words as possible with a given specific nga letter. So this is the act of retrieving words from long-term memory. For the number, this is crystallized because they were asked to do a simple computation. So performing computations. So ang mga learned rang computation because these are simple addition problems. For spatial orientations, this is fluid because you have to solve to have the perfect pattern for the figure to match the stimulus figure. I-angle na nimo ang figure para ma-perfect nimo og place sa spot niya. The inductive reasoning is also a fluid intelligence because they were asked to complete a letter series. So this is identifying patterns and interfering principles and rules for solving logical problems. So for the last test was perceptual speed. So this is a type of intelligence which is fluid. So they were asked to identify matching and non-matching images that was flashed on screen. So the ability measured here is making quick and accurate discriminations between visual stimuli. So that is all for my report, and the next will be reported by my co-reporter. Thank you, everyone.
Good day, everyone. So let's proceed to the next topic, which is the difference between fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. So first is, what is fluid intelligence? So fluid intelligence is a essential part of cognitive ability, and it plays a key role in our capacity to adapt new situations and challenges. It also allows us to think abstractly, identify patterns, and solve novel problems without relying on the prior knowledge or experiences. Essentially, it's like having a mental toolkit that help us tackle unfamiliar tasks. It also refers to the current ability. This type of intelligence reflects your brain current processing power, how well you can reason, analyze information, and think critically right now, regardless of the past learning or experiences. For example, when you are solving a complex puzzle you've never encountered before, such as figuring out how to escape from a locked room in an escape room challenge, this requires you to analyze clues, think critically, and find solution without relying on the previous experiences. Next, it's involved openness to learning new things. So, fluid intelligence DI supports a willingness to explore new ideas and take on unfamiliar challenges, fostering innovation and adaptability. For example, when you are learning how to use a new program for work, you approach the unfamiliar interface with a curiosity and figure out its features through trial and error and exploration. And lastly, it decreases with age. So studies shows that fluid intelligence tend to peak during young adulthood and gradually decline with age. This is linked to changes in brain structures and processing speed as we grow older. For example, you are comparing your younger self, when you are comparing yourself to your younger. For example, when you are comparing yourself to your younger self, you might notice that past requires quick mental requ- For example, when you are comparing yourself to your younger self, you might notice that tasks requiring quick mental calculation like adding up prices in your head will shopping take a bit longer as you age. This illustrates that fluid intelligence decrease in processing speed over time. Let us proceed to crystallize intelligence. So what is crystallized intelligence all about? It is the sum of what you've learned and experienced over time. It grows as you accumulate knowledge, facts, and skills throughout education, work, and life experiences. Unlike fluid intelligence, which focuses on novel problem solving, crystallized intelligence thrives on recall and application of known information. It also refers to the prior learning. This type of intelligence is rooted in your accumulated knowledge base. For example, when you are a child, you know how to ride a bicycle. Even years later, you can draw on that prior knowledge and skills to bicycle effortlessly. It also involved recalling specific facts. So crystallized intelligence relies on memory to access stores knowledge. For example, you are answering trivia questions such as naming all the planets in the solar system or recalling the year of a major historical event occurred. This relies on your ability to retrieve stored facts. And lastly, it increases with age. Unlike fluid intelligence, crystallized intelligence strengthens as you get older. This happens because you continue to learn and accumulate knowledge through life. For example, an experienced chef can effortlessly apply recipes, techniques, and cooking principles learned over a decades to prepare a perfect dish. So let's move forward to their expertise. So by middle adulthood, people often reach a stage where they excel in their professions or areas of interest. This expertise is like a well-owned skill set refined over years of education, practice, and real world experience. They develop a kind of mental shortcut where their deep understanding help them to solve problems and make decisions most instinctively. So, for example, when a master chef who's been cooking for 2 decades or even how many years, if faced with a recipe they've never seen before, they don't need to measure every single ingredients or follow the instructions step by step. Instead, their knowledge of flavors, techniques, and cooking time allows them to quickly adapt the recipe and create a delicious dish faster or quickly. Their years of practice make it look like effortless, but it builds on a foundation of expertise. The next in line is encapsulation. Encapsulation in middle adulthood is like weaving together a person's knowledge, skills, emotion, and motivation into one cohesive package. This integration enables them to use their expertise not just efficiently but meaningfully, aligning their abilities with what truly matters to them. For example, a middle aged doctor who had spent decades treating patients. Over time, they not just only mastered medical knowledge but also developed deep empathy and strong commitment to improve lives. When making decisions, their professional expertise now guided by their personal values like prioritizing compassionate care or tailoring treatment to suit individuals' patients' need. This blend of skills and values showcases in encapsulation in action. This blend of skills and values showcases encapsulation. For example, a middle aged doctor who had spent decades treating patients. Over time, they not just only mastered medical knowledge but also developed deep empathy and strong commitment to improve lives. When making decisions, their professional expertise is now guided by their personal values like prioritizing compassionate care or tailoring treatment to suit individual patients' needs. This blend of skills and values showcase encapsulation in action. Let's proceed to integrative thoughts. So, integrative thoughts in middle adulthood is the ability to take various ideas, viewpoints, and pieces of information and bring them together into a unified understanding. This skills is incredibly valuable in complex situations as it helps individuals see the bigger pictures and find balanced solutions. So, for example, your parents deciding what to cook for your dinner. So, imong your sister want pasta, your other sibling wants pizza, and your parents prefer something healthy. So, instead of picking one option, they create a dish that combines everyone's ideas like veggie packed pasta with pizza inspired sauce. This way, they bring together different preferences into one solution that works for everyone. That's integrative thinking in action, finding a way to blend various needs harmoniously. So lastly, creativity. So creativity in the middle adulthood become more grounded in practical wisdom and life experiences. Instead of focusing on completely new, groundbreaking ideas, individual often channel their creativity into solving real world problems, mentoring others, or improving their surrounding into meaningful ways. So for example, your mama siguro or lola, your mama who love gardening Instead of planting a brand new garden, they kanang they creatively use recycled items like old pots or bottles to make a beautiful planters. They also teach younger neighbors how to grow plants, sharing their tips and tricks. They also use their creativity and experience to make an impact on their community in a practical and meaningful way. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I'm from Group 7, and my name is Maria Fatima Samonte. And the topic that I will going to discuss about middle adulthood is its psychosocial development. Let's get started. Oh, here. So let me read this. In psychosocial terms, middle adulthood once was considered a relatively stable period of development in which little change occurred. Middle aged adults were rarely the object of direct study. Some classic models of middle adulthood that have had the greatest impact on the field as a way to frame our understanding of development in midlife. So, during middle adulthood, psychosocial development is characterized by the pursuit of generativity versus stagnation. It is described one of the stages sa Eric Erikson. I think it's the seventh stage, if I am not mistaken. During this stage, to individuals seek to contribute sa community. They find a way nga maka-do sila og activities like community service or any kanang community involvement bitaw. For example is kanang mo volunteer tingali na ay nasunugan, then kibaw ka nga kaya nimong mutabang, then you are willingly to volunteer sa imong kawalingon, then mutabang ka sa kung unsay mga kinahanglan. And it is a way of helping others, yes. Other example for this is kanang mo volunteer og tutor bitaw sa certain nga tingali local school, or bisag certain lang nga isa ka bata nga imong tudloan nga kahibaw ka nga he or she need assist sa iyang education baron. So in this way you are slowly helping people who are in need, and through this is kanang dili lang sad lain imong helpan, kundi itabang sad ka sa imong kaugalingon nga mo grow by helping others. Daghang pagpaagi nga kanang para bitaw atong i-involve ang atong kaugalingon sa kanang any community activities, mga organizations baron nga mo participate ka. For example, anis kanang mo join ka og kanang neighborhood watch program, kanang lending a hand to local businesses, creating a community garden, or kanang donating to local charities during this age na sa imong life. So let's go to the next slide. These are the theoretical models of change at midlife. So first is the normative stage model. So let me read this first. Erikson 1985 believed that the years around age 40 were a time when people entered their seventh psychosocial stage. Yeah, I'm right. Ganina nga, ika-7 nga psychosocial stage, according to Eric Erikson, which is the generativity versus stagnation. Generativity, as Erikson defined it, involved finding meaning through contributing to society and leaving a legacy for future generations. So for this one is in middle this model emphasize universal age-related developmental tasks and crisis. according to Erickson, aning na stage sa tao is kanang capable na siya sa kanang kung unsa bitaw ang angay niya nga atubangon or unsay angay niya nga unahon. For example is kaning mo in like what I said earlier nga kailangan na mo engage sa any community activities sa usa ka tawo kay it is what people expected you to do. Kay kanang at this age you are kanang capable na bitaw ka sa kung unsa ang angay, then they're expecting nga mo ni ang angay sa dimo nga buhaton. Or kanang another example for this is kanang wait, let me diba, generativity refers to the desire to guide and care for future generations, often through mentoring, like mo mentor og mga bata, mo tutor, and for this age, diba, expected naman sa diri nga anita ka na magkapamilya ng isa ka tao, so a certain person is expected to raise children. Obligated na siya, responsible na siya nga mo-raise of children, and naasad if kang wala pa pamilya is they are kanang into kanang bitang mga social na nga kanang into social ba nga daghan mga tao bitaw din mo volunteer mo participate na di mga tao nga kanang they want to help others through engaging in that activity, pero nasa uban nga kana in lain nga way ilahang pag-contribute sa society or sa community. So it's a stage where individuals focus on leaving a lasting legacy and making a positive impact on the world. Ani nga idara is dili na bitaw angay nga kanang naaras sa ilahang bay kay we're over man anang nga stage, angay na kanang productive na bitaw dire, angay na nga kanang tagaan og atensyon sa kung unsa na ang angay buhaton for improvement sa community, not just for community but also for yourself. Kay bago nga kanang you act accordingly ba sa kung unsa na edad nimo. So yeah, that's another example for generativity nga akong gihimo is kaning about creating bitaw, kaning engaging in creative endeavors like art, music, or leaving a lasting legacy. O di ba ne kanang if you're good into art, then you nga nanani dara is try to engage through art activity, paintings like that, kay maybe in the near future or dili jud maybe because you have this talent of yours, then you are kanang capable nga mas i-improve bitaw ni kay it is aside sa gift ni God is mahimo ni nang matakatabang nimo to grow and to develop. Mentoring ako na mention, volunteering, yeah, kuning helping those in need, yeah. So people who do not find an outlet for generativity run the risk of becoming self-absorbed, self-indulgent, and stagnant. Kaning money katnoing stagnation kanang if they going to kanang isolate ra bitaw ilang self, dili mawiden ang ilang hunahuna sa kanang dili ma-expose ilang mind ba sa mga nagkalain-lain nga butang sa kalibutan nga nindot di ay dili ma-open ilang mind for improvement, dili nila what do you call this, mapa-improve ilang self. It is because they keep isolating nga tingali ilang kaugalingon, and then kana dili sad malikayan nga ma-feel nimo is ma-disconnect bitaw ka sa communities because kay wala kay na contribute. So better let's be productive every day until mabuta ani nga age sa atong life. So for the next bullet is kaning culture influence on generativity. For this one, cultural norms heavily influence how individuals express generativity, a sense of concern for guiding the next generation and contributing to society. While the core concept of generativity might be universal, its manifestation varies across cultures. For instance, for example, is kanang sa certain nga place, there, di ba, lahi mag-culture. So, sa isa ka place is, ang ilang nga culture is, teaching skills might be a primary form of generativity. Like, di ba, kanang, mo teach, mo mentor, with the use of our teaching skills. It is a form for us, it is a form of generativity for us. But, for this, para sa lain, or pagtanaw nila ani, sa ilang culture is, it could be kanang preservation na bitaw sa ilang tradition by kanang storytelling, like nga na lijud kanang murag way ra ni bitaw nga ma-preserve and ma-keep ang aning spirit sa ilahang certain nga place. Next is trait models. So this one, let me read this. Recall the best known trait model of personality described the individual differences between people as consisting of 5 factors. So, I'm going to discuss lang na so trait models. So, in middle adulthood, trait models, particularly the 5-factor model, katong big 5 bitaw, kaning ocean, acronym na ocean, which is the openness to experience. O for openness to experience, C for conscientiousness, E for extroversion, A for agreeableness, and N for neuroticism. So for trait models is, during middle adulthood daw is, stable na ang ato ang personality traits, dili same ato ang kanang bata-bata pa bitaw atong edad nga, kanang everyday is new learnings na pala itong makuan. So, bali grow patag, hinahinay patag adapt sa kung unsang ang mga factor nga posible nga maka-affect sa atoa. Ang middle adulthood is nag-focus na sa mas kana importanteng butang bitaw sa atong life. Okay, ani na tamo narbaho, dili na murag into yet still nga kuan man nga kanang we are daghan pag factors, pero for this time, this age is kanang this stage sa atong life is kanang manarbaho na, so focus na sa trabaho, sa mga own nga career, sa kung unsa nagikabisihan, sa mga social rules. So ani is personality traits tend to stabilize, mas stable na during middle adulthood because individuals, like what I said, tend to have more settled life experiences and social rules. And social rules. Asa na to? Trait models. I'm sorry. Mag-focus na sa kanang work, sa family, nga mo say maka-influence sa atong personality. So, middle adulthood often involves establishing careers, raising families, and becoming more entrenched in social networks. Kanang nanay certain involvement ang isa ka tao sa isa ka field baron, which is a way nga mas stable or nakakapag-cause og stableness sa iyang life. Dili jud literal na stable, but mas stable kaysa before. But still, this way of life sa isa ka tao is this helps her or him in developing in other aspect pa. So, some theorists suggest that personality traits became more stable as individuals mature, with increasing conscientiousness and agreeableness and decreasing neuroticism. During middle adulthood, mo increase ang conscientiousness o kanang agreeableness daw sa katao according to some theories. First, let's sita sa conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is the quality of wishing to do one's work or duty with well and thoroughly. So, who increase daw ni during middle adulthood stage, it is because, di ba? For example, pamilyado ang isa ka tao. Then naay gibuhi pamilya, mga anak, then if na siya sa work, then gi-offeran bitaw siya og kanang mao ni iyang buhaton, mao ni iyang work. And then napay mas more, so mudawat gipon siya kay di ba ang conscientiousness is wishing to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly, kay bali murag na-inspired na bitaw siya nga mas mo work, not just inspired but to earn more because naanay mga needed, naanay mas priority kisa sa atong kaugalingon. So, naiuban mga tao nga tingali sa buntag is mag-tutor, then sa gabi is kanang mag call center bitaw, mauna na mga tao nga ingon anak na murag balik itaw nang mudubli kayod bitaw, it is because siguro tagagastuonon, so mo increase jud ning nga klase sa nga nato ang pagka tao kay kanang we are responsible na daghan na tag obligasyon during this stage, and naagani uban nga kanang bisag nagkamalisod na bitaw kay mo go with the flow lang gihapon kay baw man sila nga they work for good and they work for the basic need nga kailangan sa usa ka tawo. So they are inspired to do more and strive more para sa mga responsibilidad sa kinabuhi nga gahuwat. So mo ni akong giingon. Next nga ni increase according to this is that agreeableness nga another kanang isa sa atong big five bitaw. So agreeableness is a personality trait referring to individuals that are perceived as kind, sympathetic, cooperative, warm, honest, and considerate. So balikan ng dali ra bitaw maka go with the flow ang isa ka tawo kauban tingali niya sa work, kanang dili ra makipaghalubilo, kanang dili ba lisod pakisamahan bitaw. It is because during middle age is ma-expose man jud ka sa nakalain-lain nga tao, then in order for you to survive, in order for you to nga makaya ang mga buhaton is you have to be kind, you have to be considerate sa daghan nga aspect. So that is middle-aged individuals often show a greater level of trust, kindness, affection, and pro-social behaviors, reflecting an increase in agreeableness. So, if na ni increase, di ba, katong conscientiousness o katong agreeableness, nasa ni decrease, which is a neuroticism. Neuroticism is a personality trait associated with negative emotions. Ani na period sa life sa usa ka tawo is mo increase maturity sa usa ka tawo, and maka-adapt na sad siya sa nagkalain-lain nga problema or situation sa life nga iyang ma-encounter. Kanang neuroticism is di ba kanang associated with negative emotions, kanang mo siya kanang a person tend to have a feeling of anxiety, fear, or kanang mga negative nga affect, negative nga feelings. So mo decrease ni siya nato, it is because namatay ka ng layo na bitatag na aptan anya nga stage. So kanang daghang experiences nga nang labay nga nakaya nimo, so bali mo mag-reflect na lang ka nga nakaya nako gani ang kani nga trabaho, so why not karon nakaya man ako sa una nga medyo bag-uhay pa ko. So bali ang ma-reduce na bitaw imo nga nang negative nga panghunahon na emotion tungod kay you have an experience na ani ang field or ani ang situation. So bali mo rin na lang imong pag-keep strong na lang bitaw imong kaugalingon nga. Imo ra ingnan nga kaya rin ako, kaya rin ni like that. Mawiden ang ato ang mind sa pag-regulate sa kung unsa angay buhaton o bation sa certain nga situation. Dili na kayo ta maka-feel og fear. Fear ini kahadlok baron sa atong kaugmaon. It is because naa na tay naabot, even though dili man siya kanang murag mo stop na bitaw tong life kay natay naabot, but at least dili man ta maabot ani if dili ta makaagi bitaw sa mga kalisod. Kalisod is part of what made us right now. It encompasses hardship, di ba? Ang atong kalipay nga na sinatiron. So bali hunahunahon lang nimo nga nakaya sad sa uban, nakaya sad nimo before, so why not di makaya nako karon. So tingali ka na you have the fear sa imong kaugmaon. It is because at this age kaybaw na ta sa angay nga buhaton o kung unsa ang angay dili o kung unsa ang pag-grow as a person and to be a better example sa tanan. So for this one, culture and personality, for example, I will go straight to example. Kanang example kanang individualistic culture i-compare sa collectivist, di ba? We know individualistic culture is tingali kanang ang emphasize man ni kay independence sa isa ka tawo o kanang personal personal individual gani personal achievement. So mag-lead ni sa kanang this leads to having the personality nga i-prioritize ang kaugalingon kay tungod kay maoy tay nakita niya oy culture nila, so ma-adapt niya. Bali competitive kanang isini niya iyang kaugalingon nga murag kontra bitaw ang uban mga tao. In contrast to collectivist culture, ang collectivist culture is this value social harmony. So bali marigi-value ang kadaghanan kaysa sa kaugalingon. So for those people nga belong sa ngani nga culture is kanang gi-value nila ang kanang needed sa groups, dili lang sa kaugalingong mga gusto, and this also result in personalities that are more socially oriented and empathetic. So dili lang jud kaugalingon ang hunahon bali mas unahon ang kadaghanan bitaw or kanang mas gi-prioritize ang group harmony sa usa ka lugar baron or sa usa ka situation. That's it. Let's go for the next slide. So for this is the timing of events. So ako lang ni edit so sad nga kanang i-explain. So ang focus sa aning timing of events is kanang these models emphasize that specific life events is kanang naay bitay significant nga impact sa individual life and his or her well-being. For example, ano is kanang such as marriage, di ba? Naman ni dako nga impact sa tong life din. And then through this dili lang ni siya naaray impact sa life nga nasa din siya nahatag nga development sa atong self, di ba? If maminyo ka like sa gingon sa asawa sa akong kuya nga mosog jud bitaw imong panglantaw kay dili lang imong kaugalingon na hunaon nya mas unahon jud mo ang pamilya kasi mo kaugalingon. So bali kanang mausab na jud murag mausab ang imong world, imong pananaw jud sa whole nga kanang meaning sa life. So that's it for parenthood. Mao to kanang nanay kanang anak mausog na kay kanang dili like before nga daga pa or kanang ulitaw nga mga kanang kaugalingon na bitay naon kanang laglaag nga na. So nanay kanang significant changes sa atong life. And last ani is kaning dili last tapay ko mga example kaning career transition siguro. So kanang if kanang nag-school na ka graduate na, so nakay career, so nakay trabaho ana, then ani nga trabaho is naka-experience na ana, then you want to explore more. Then bali if dili heavy ni nga trabaho is kanang the next yang natrabaho ni mas kanang marag bugat bitaw pod para nimo, so kanang mag-create yun kanang excuse me, kanang changes nga kanang wa bitaw na anad imong kaugalingon, pero kay maumay imong gipili nga trabaho nga for you sad nga mo develop is imong kayanon. Then this has a significant impact sa imong life, guys. Kay you learn how to be strong man, you learn how to manage ba ang imong self nga mas kayanon ang mga trabaho nga wala nimo naandan before. Last is kaning lose of a parent. So kaning jud di ba daghan jud makarelate ani nga kanang ang paggawa sa atong is mama or papa baron is kanang na-impact sa atong life. Dako kayo nga impact sa atong life, and dako nga sakit nga makawilin sa dughan. Nakay friend ari rasad sa among barangay nga siya is anak, then siya is anak, then nayang papa is na-disgrasya, then namatay. Naka-learn siya nga how to be independent. Dili mo siya nga dili siya independent, pero mas kanang na independent jud siya ba fully kay kanang sila na duha sa iyang mama nabilin, and then learn na siya nga nanay mga butang nga ibot siya nga papa, pero karon is dapat siya na nga na. Next is what is midlife crisis and is it real? So for this is ako lang yung dalion. So a midlife crisis is a period of psychological stress often between the ages of 40 and 60 where individuals reevaluate their lives, question their identity, and experience feelings of anxiety, restlessness, or dissatisfaction. It can be triggered by various factors like aging, job changes, or relationship issues. Ani nga age is kanang dili pa bitaw ma-feel sa katawo nga satisfy siya sa iyang mga nakabuot. Although tingali kanang daghan na siya naagian, daghan na experience, but there is something nga kanang hanging pabitaw iyang life. So ani murag musik pa siya o kanang fulfillment, musik pa siya og satisfaction ani nga stage. So he or she wants to explore more pa jud nga ma-meet ang iyang gusto nga sa kinabuhi jud, literal. Example is kaning career shift, ang kanang ni-quit ka sa imong job and yung in order to mara masatisfy kitingali ka start ka og new business kay why for you kanang basig mao jud yang para nako. So mao na kanang you seek more for and explore more kay for you to kanang masatisfy bitay mo self. Next is kaning it may be better to consider midlife a turning point. So sa context sa midlife crisis nga gitawag nga turning point. So ani is turning point represents a significant time of change and self-reflection. Kanang mura i-question bitan nimo imong self nga kanang unsa man jud gusto na kong dungon, unsa man jud dungon, unsa man jud gusto na ko nga buhaton, unsa man jud ako kung tumong sa life nga na. So balibor i-evaluate nimo imong values, goals, kanang imong i-reassess imong priorities, imong i-consider mga new directions, kanang mag-make ka og kanang major shifts, mga kabaguhan sa imong life nga kanang feel nimo is this way is much better kaysa sa imong naandan. That's turning point. For midlife review is that this involves recognizing the finiteness of life. Oh no, I don't know how to pronounce, but yeah, I think I'm right. It can be a time of taking stock, discovering new insights about the self, and spurring mid-course corrections in the design and trajectory of one's life. So, midlife review is maghunahuna ka sa mga past experiences nimo. Mura siya same sa turning point, diba? Bas ang turning point is transition lang siya dito. So, going to murag muak na bit murag imong nang you think and then you imong put into practice bitaw put into an action ang imong mga ways on how to improve. Yeah, that's turning point. For midlife review is maghunahuna ka sa mga past experiences nimo, mga important lessons nga nakapahelp nimo nga why you grow that way, and mo look back sad ka sa imong mga accomplishments, imong mga regrets sa life, and mga missed opportunities. That is midlife review. Midlife review will help you discover more meaning and purpose, learn how to cultivate a better relationship with yourself and others, develop ways to access your innate wisdom, and last is let go of fears about your own and other expectations. So that is. Last slide is that kaning ego resiliency. So people with ego resiliency or the ability to adapt flexibly and resourcefully to potential sources of stress, and to those who have sense of mastery and culture are more likely to navigate the midlife processes. So, ego resiliency is simply the characteristic bitaw sa tao nga mo adapt sa stress. I put stress to success. It is meaning is even though you are stressed but you think nga this stress will help me to grow, and this problem, stress, challenges will help me to be a better, and dili nimo hunahunahon bitaw mga negative nga thoughts, mga negative siguro ang mahitabo nimo if ever dili bitaw nimo ma-solve ang kaning nga stress nga nakapada sa imong life. Bali i-widen nimo ang imong mind nga you can solve this, you can do this way, that way nga na para to achieve success. So kanang they recover from stress more rapidly. Kani mga nganing nga tao are less likely to become depressed after experiencing a trauma. So, and because of having this resiliency is that you as a person will less likely to experience midlife crisis kay it's because murag positive person bitaw ka nga makaya ni nako kay kanang isugman ko nga murag i-remind mo imong self ba kanang stress will lead to success, and will help you to grow and to develop fully. Yeah. Lastly, ego resiliency also includes the ability to maintain a stable personality and preserve a strong sense of self. So that's all. Thank you and good day.
So, good day. I'll be discussing about the identity development. So, in discussing the identity development, I will discuss the two parts. So, first one is the narrative approach to identity development, and then second is I will discuss the cognitive aspects of shifting identity in midlife as informed by Piaget's work. So, first is I will discuss about the narrative identity. So, narrative psychologist sees the self as an ongoing story people create and to understand their lives. So, example ani kay si Michelle, she is a teacher. She often tells story about katong mga struggles niya sa iyang college. So na siya duha ka struggle. So first struggle niya is that financial problem, and then second is her learning disability. So over the years, she has come to see his iyang struggle as a reason nga nung nahimo siyang passionate teacher. So in her iyang personal narrative, overcoming the academic challenges o iyang financial problems gave her empathy and purpose to shape her identity as someone who will help others succeed. So even though she had many different experiences in life, Michelle chooses to frame her life story and around sa iyang struggles and sa iyang growth. So that story helps her understand who she is and why she does what she does. So sa narrative, in narrative psychology, it's not just what happens to us that matters, but how we interpret and organize those events into meaningful story. So the second bullet is the field of narrative psychology views the development of self as a continuous process of constructing one life story. So also a dramatic narrative will help us make sense of one's life and connect the past and present with the future. So ang example ani kay si Ivy. Si Ivy kana she is a 48 years old na siya. Si Ivy kaya naka-question na jud sa iyang career path. Si Ivy work in corporate for almost 2 decades. So, naka-build na siya og stability for her family. Pero, iyang mga anak nanagpo na naniguwang na and she felt unfulfilled. So, around this time, katong namatay na ang mama ni Ivy. Sorry, tita. Which made her reflect on the kind of legacy na gusto niyang ibilin sa iyang mama. So rather than seeing this period as crisis, si Ivy iyang reshape iyang life story. So si Ivy ini-enrolled sa Ivy in a part-time counseling program sa school. Iyang nagigamit iyang pagka-graduate sa iyang pagka-psychology student sa iyang pagka-bachelor. Something she had always been interested but never pursued kay mahadlok lagi siya kay wa siya kay pabun sa iyang kuan na future anak. And then she started telling a new story about herself. So one where her years in corporate gave her discipline and empathy. Unya karon she was entering a new chapter that focused on helping other people. So, in this narrative, kanang story ni Ivy, si Ivy kay iyang giling kay iyang past responsibilities. And then, isunod iyang present transition and her future hopes, creating meaningful and evolving sense of self. So, a narrative identity is a script or a story. People follows the script they have created and act out their identity. So in midlife midlife often is a time for revision jud siya sa mga life story. The studies in narrative psychology are based on standardized 2 hours life story interview. So research using this technique has found that people's script tends to reflect their personalities. So example ni kay kintahay akong counseling sa Ate Shana. And then akong gigamit ning standardized 2 hours life story. So akong gipa-story si Ate Shana about sa iyang life pag niya younger years niya. So during the interview si Ate Shana kay taas iyang conscious and responsible individual siya. So, ga-describe sa Ate Shana sa iyang life as a series of careful, carefully planned milestone. So dili siya magpataka-taka og kuan buhat sa iyang gusto buhaton. So example nga kuan siya ga-plan siya sa iyang pag-excel sa iyang school. So nag-secure siya og stable job, and then nag-buy siya og house, and after that kasal sa siya na. And then ayang narrative nag-emphasized of order, structure, and long-term goal. So she rarely spoke sa iyang mga impulsive decisions or unexpected detours. So instead, she focused on preparing and steady process. So katong nga life script nga gi-reflect natin siya na is the iyang conscious personality. So iyang nakita iyang self sa iyang life as something to be managed through discipline, planning, and control. So ang story natin siya na wasn't just about what happened to her, but how she interpreted those events in a way that aligned with her personality traits. Muna siya. And then highly generative adults tends to construct generative script. So this script often features a theme of redemption or deliverance from suffering and are associated with psychological well-being. And lastly, tendency to develop narratives in which the events are generally interpreted as being positive or negative events. Events are closely examined and processed for their meanings are associated with well-being and adjustments. So, ang akong example ani nga mahatag kay kuaning interpreting life events positively and reflecting on negative supports well-being and adjustment. So, kuan ani si Josh ani. So, katong sorry. So, example ani si Ate MJ na lang. She is tigunan ni Kuang na si Ate MJ, niabot na siya 50 years old. Teacher gihapon siya. Si Ate MJ kay nag-tells of story of how she grew up in a strict household where her parents, her mother is very strict sa ilang lifestyle. So 4 years si Ate MJ kay naka-feel of kaning neglected and ashamed siguro kay tungod anang iyang mama pagka-strict kay basin ingnon siya sa mga silingan niya ay anak man na ni nga na kanya mo katubang stricta ba so mo to si Ate MJ naka-feel og ashamed siya. But in her adult life, si Ate MJ become a mentor, a soft person and advocate. So nag-advocate po siya og for at-risk youth. So she says that what I went through made me who I am today. So it gives me the heart to help other people. Like nga dapat tita ma-shame kung strict atong parents kay because sa nilang strict si atong parents dili man ta may ngani di ba inigta ko like karon strict akong parents nako yes na ashamed ko tungod niya pero tungod po niya daghan po na learn in life and dili po ko magpataka-taka o kaning bukat sa akong mga gusto kay tungod kay naka-learn ko na sa akong mama. So this generative script a story so mo ni siya ang story naka-focus on contributing to the next generation with a redemption theme. So where the past suffering transformed into a source of purpose. So this type of narrative is linked with the higher psychological well-being. So because it gives meaning and hardship nato identity process theory. So according to the identity process theory, the IPT refers to physical characteristics, cognitive abilities, and personality traits are incorporated into identity schemas. So this self-perception are continually confirmed or revised in response to incoming information. So akong example ani kay si Josh. So si Josh kay always see himself as physically strong and mentally sharp. So kana siya nga traits that were central, mo na siya nga traits nga nag-central sa iyang identity. So but however, after nag-experience siya og mild stroke buyag-buyag, he began to notice some memory lapses and physical limitation. So daghan na siya limitation. At first, he felt frustrated and even denied ang mga changes. But over the time, he gradually adjusted his identity schema. So instead of seeing himself as a strong provider, he began to view himself as a wise mentor who shares his knowledge with with her younger said may trabaho na tayo Josh, architect na lang kay si Imandikan. So ana siya nga case si Josh nga self-perception kay na-challenge by new experiences, and through adaptation he revised his identity to maintain a sense of continuity and self-worth. So mo na siya exactly as described sa identity process theory sa ako ang pagsabot. Piaget's concept in identity development. So si Piaget described two processes that have been applied towards understanding identity development. So muna si assimilation and accumulation. So first is the identity assimilation. So before ko mo undergo unsa ning identity assimilation ni Piaget, first I will define what is assimilation. So kanang assimilation is the interpretation of new information via existing cognitive structure. So nya siya new information na siya nga na-exist ni cognitive structure. So identity assimilation. So identity assimilation involves in holding onto a consistent sense of self in the face of new experiences that do not fit the current understanding sa imong self. Example ani, nibalhin ka og kaning trabaho, unya leader ka. Unya, ay basta na mo example ko later. So contradictory or confusing information, ang mga contradictory or confusing information about yourself na siya, iyahan na siyang i-absorb without changing one's identity schema. So ang example ani kay si Laura, siya professional manager ni siya, she has always seen herself as confident and capable in leadership in her workplace. So iyahan na takes pride sa ihang she takes pride in her strong organizational skills and her ability to manage projects effectively. However, after being assigned a leadership role in a new department with a different company structure, ibalhin siya niya kaning daghang bag-ong with a different company culture, she begins receiving feedback sa iyahang mga trabahante, sa iyang colleagues, nga assertive siya kayo niya, dili po siya collaborative enough. So despite ana nga contradictory nga feedback, si Laura kaihar gyapon gi-continue iyang self as a strong leadership. So rather than revising her identity based on a new conflicting information sa mga feedback nga gihatag niya, gi-absorb ni Laura ang mga feedbacks but reinterprets it through the lens of her existing self-concept. Iya pong gi-convince iyang self nga ang iyang leadership style kay simply needs simple adjustments. So but she does not fundamentally questions her identity as a capable leader. So she holds into a consistent sense of self. So even when she faced with experiences that challenged her usual understanding of herself, tungod sa ihang na siya consistent nga sense of self, dili siya matandog even if daghan siya gipang experience nga challenging sa ihang usual understanding sa ihang self. So katong example, ang identity ni Laura kay nag-remain siya largely unchanged because she adopts contradictory information in a way that preserves her sense of self. The second Piaget's work is the identity accumulation. So first, what is accumulation? So accumulation involves in changing cognitive structures to more closely align to what is encountered. So mag-usog-usog siya. And then, what is identity accumulation? So identity accumulation in contrast involves adjusting the identity schema to fit new experience. So ani na-ashay ko ang discontinuity of the self kay mo ni siya is the result because the identity accumulation involves changing the understanding of self. So, example, ani kay si Ivy. Ivy always saw herself as a highly independent and career-focused siya. However, after sa pagpanganak ni Ivy, she found herself feeling more nurturing and less driven sa iyang career goals. So, the shift in her priorities was so profound that Anna eventually adjusted her identity schema. So she no longer defined herself solely by her professional achievement, but incorporated by her new role as a mother into herself of sense. So this change can cause discontinuity in her self-perceptions. As she had to redefine who she was, she had to redefine who she was, so balancing both her career and new identity as mother. So katong example ako ni Ivy is that ang identity schema ni Ivy kay changes in a response to new experiences. So creating this continuity as she adjusts her self-understanding kung naay bag-ong situation nga or experiences nga ma-experience niya sa iyang life. Overuse of either assimilation or accumulation is unhealthy. So people who constantly assimilate may seek to maintain a youthful self-image and ignore what is going on their body. So this process of denial make it harder for them to confront the reality of aging when it can no longer be ignored. So example ani kay si Josh na niguwang na unya gusto gihapon siya mudong og gym even though nga nagkasakit sakit na iyang tuhod, maglugos na siya glakaw. Unya si Josh pod kay mag-refuse pud siya o mo refuse siya nga mudong siya sa doktor. And iyang refuse to see himself as old and continues to interpret everything through a youthful self-image. So, ang nasa utok ni Josh kay batanon palagi ko makaya pa rin ako. So, mo na nasa sulti sa utok ni Josh. So, when he eventually faces a serious injury, he's emotionally unprepared to cope with the limitations of aging. So this example shows how constant assimilation and denial can delay the necessary adjustments to the aging process. So second is people who constantly accommodate are weak and highly vulnerable to criticism. So their identity is easily undermined. They may overreact to early signs of aging, such as a first gray hair, and their pessimism may hasten physical and cognitive decline. So, ang akong example ani kantahay. Ako na lang. Naka-notice ko nga akong buhok, nanay nitubo, gray, na nakoy uban. And then, deeply upset ko pag nakita na ako sa uban kaya naka-realize ko, ate ko nanako sa sign of aging, ani nga na. And then, ako begins to think that I'm getting older, and that her best years are behind me. So, even small comments about age, may feel ko insecure kay ko tahay ingnan ko naniguang naman kalaysa kay na kay uban, ma-insecure na ko anak kay kuan mo na siya, ma-insecure na ko na. She starts avoiding social events. So ako sa pagkakuan yung tayo na ako uban nga wala dili pa ko maka kaning puno-puno ang salon, so dili ko makapasalon sa akong hair. akong gi-avoid niya mo appeal ko og mga social events. Anya nag-doubt ko sa akong ability sa akong work. So nag-assume ko nga sa kay nagkatiguang man ko nag-assume ko nga I am becoming less competent. So kanin siya nga example kay nag-show siya constant accumulation can lead to identity instability. Dili mas stable ang ako ang kuan identity. So overreaction to overreaction to minor changes and pessimistic outlook may accelerate decline. So muna si identity balance. Ideally, people are able to achieve identity balance and maintain a stable sense of self while adjusting their schemas to incorporate new information such as the effects of aging. People who achieve identity balance recognizes changes and responds flexibility. So they seek to control what can be controlled and accept what cannot. Muna siya identity balance. So akong example ani kay kanbahay. Si Josh, pagkaabot ni Josh of 55 years old, nagka-notice siya nga yung eyesight nagka-worsening na, nagka-grabe na, di na kayo siya makaklaro, imbis dili siya tig-glasses. And feel more fatigue after long hours of work, so maka-feel na siya fatigue. Instead of denying these changes or panicking, gi-acknowledge na ni Josh calmly. So, katong pagkakuha niya, di ba, nag-andaot iyang mata, nag-get siya og reading glasses. Kunya iha pong gi-adjust iyang work schedules nga mag-include og breaks niya kay nagatigwang man siya, dili man siya, wa man siya nagkabata. And then starts walking daily for energy. Dili siya magpundo sa bahay, magliga, dili kung magtrabaho, mag-start na siya walking kay walking can increase energy jud siya, proven and tested. He still see himself as creative and capable, just like someone who's adapting with age. So dili siya dali mabago-bago, like madawat niya dayon ang identity balance kay madawat niya dayon kung unsay mahitabo sa iyang life. Like si Josh naka-maintain siya og stable self-image while flexible adjusting to new realities. Nag-accept po siya nga sa iyang aging without letting it undermine his core value of self. So muna siya sa tuang life dapat jud na jud identity balance kay maratol-ratol ta sa tuang life. So that's all for my reporting. Thank you.
So let us move to the marital capital. So what is marital capital? It refers to the financial and emotional benefits built up during a long-standing marriage, which tend to hold a couple together. So it is a shared finances, mutual friendships, emotional bonds, and important life experiences. These connections can create a strong sense of attachment, making it hard to end the relationship. So think of marital capital like the emotional and financial investment a couple builds up over a long marriage. It includes like shared money and property. So over time, when a couples usually combine their income, buy property or invest together and make joint financial decisions. And it also includes close friendship they have formed together, like years of supporting each other through ups and downs create a deep emotional connections. Then, deep emotional connections happens when a long-term couples often build a shared circle of friends like family connections and community ties. And lastly is the major life events they have been through as a team. So after many years together, couples often see themselves as a unit. They share traditions, inside jokes, and a sense of we instead of me. So why does long-term marriages last? So couples in long-standing marriages tend to have a more to lose emotionally and financially. The shared life they've built can act as a buffer against a separation, making them more likely to stay together compared to newer couples. So couples who have been together as a long time usually have more to lose if they separate. So that could mean dividing money, dealing with shared social circles, or even just the emotional pain of losing someone who's been there through everything. So this shared history acts like glue. It keeps the relationship together. even when things get tough. So compared to newer couples, long-term partners are more likely to stay together because the cost of breaking up is higher in many ways. So here we have an example of me nga nag-talk about marriage. So marriage is simple. Your wife does whatever she wants and you do whatever she wants. So this meme is funny because it takes on the idea that in many marriages, the wife unofficially holds the power when it comes to a decision. So whether it's what to eat, where to go, or how the furniture gets rearranged again. So it's basically saying like, happy wife, happy life. So if the wife is happy, everything runs smoothly, and if the wife is not happy, well, good luck to his husband. Next is empty nest. Transitional phase of parenting following the last child leaving the parents' home. So when the last child leaves home, many parents experience a boost in well-being, especially if their children are independent, successful, and stay in touch. So marital satisfaction often increases, but stress can arise if children return or if there's a tension in the relationship. Emptiness is a new chapter for parents. The emptiness happens when the last child leaves home, or it marks a big transition in the lives of parents from active caregiving to having more personal freedom. So it affects the parents in positive and negative side. The positive side is when many parents feel proud, relieved, and even excited. They have more time for themselves and each other. So for example, a couple whose youngest just left for college might take up traveling or start a hobby they put off for many cultural differences. In the US and many Western countries, kids moving out is seen as independence and success, while in other cultures like us Filipinos or in the Philippines, some Asian or Latin American societies, it may be seen as a loss of closeness or family unity. Revolving door syndrome, tendency for young adults who have left home to return to their parents' household in times of financial, marital, or other trouble. So revolving door syndromes is also known as the boomerang kids. So this happens when young adults move out of their parents' home but then move back in later, often because of life problems like job loss, breakup, or money issues. So for example, a 27-year-old who loses her job during an economic downturn moves back in with her parents while she looks for a new one. So revolving door syndrome reflects how tough adulting can be and how family becomes a safety net, but it also brings new challenges for everyone under one roof. So filial crisis, in Mark Cohen's terminology, normative development of middle age in which adults learn to balance love and duty to their parents with autonomy within a two-way relationship. So filial crisis is balancing love, duty, and independence. So it is a normal part of middle adulthood when adult children try to balance caring for their aging parents out of love and duty while still keeping their own independence. So the challenge here is when you love your parents and want to help them, but you also want to live your own life and make your own choices. So this inner conflict is the filial crisis. So final maturity is when adults figure out how to support their parents without losing their autonomy. They reach filial maturity, a more equal, respectful, and a two-way relationship. So for example is when a 45-year-old eldest child helps her elderly mother with doctor's appointments and groceries, but also sets boundaries so she can focus on her job and her own kids. So we have here the sandwich generation. So middle-aged adults squeezed by competing needs to raise or lunch children and to care for elderly parents. So this role often fails more heavily on women, especially daughters who provide more care to their elderly parents. So the sandwich generation faces significant challenges like financial strain and emotional stress, and despite these challenges they can manage by seeking support, prioritizing self-care, and planning financially. So sandwich generation is like stuck in the middle. So it refers to middle-aged adults who are sandwiched between caring for their own children and their aging parents often at the same time. So it's hard because of time pressure, while helping kids grow up and supporting elderly parents is difficult. And it is financial stress because paying for college, healthcare, and daily expenses, and also emotional overload because he or she will constant caregiving can also lead to a burnout. So this burden often falls more heavily on women, especially daughters who tend to do more hands-on caregiving for parents. So an example of this is when a 50-year-old woman drives her teenage son to school, works full-time, and also checks in daily with her aging father who lives alone and has healthy issues. So the second to the last is the caregiver burnout. So this condition of physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion affecting adults who provide continuous care for a sick or aged person. So this causes of caregiver burnout includes prolonged caregiving without breaks, lack of support, and limited resources, which can lead to emotional exhaustion and physical health decline. So caring for individuals with dementia or multiple conditions can be particularly challenging, requiring constant supervisions and management of complex health issues. So to prevent burnout, caregivers should seek support, take breaks, and prioritize self-care by utilizing community resources and engaging in self-care activities. So caregiver burnout is when helping others wears you out. So it is the physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion that happens when someone provides non-stop care for a sick or elderly person, often without enough care. So an example of this is when a woman caring for her mom with Alzheimer's has to manage medications, daily hygiene, and emotional outbursts. On top of working and raising her own kids, eventually she feels drained and overwhelmed. So caregiver burnout is real and serious, but with support and balance, caregivers can protect their own health while helping others. So lastly, we have the kinship care. So care of children living without parents in the home of grandparents or other relatives with or without a change of legal custody. So in developing countries, the migration of rural parents to urban areas for work leads to skip generation families where grandparents become primary caregivers, often due to circumstances such as teenage pregnancy, substance abuse, illness, divorce, or death. So grandparents face physical, emotional, and financial strains, including health risks and reduced social activities. They often lack legal rights and access to benefits, and social support is important for grandparents' psychological health. So despite these challenges, kinship care helps children maintain family ties. So kinship care is when family steps in to care for children. So it is when children live with relatives like grandparents, aunts, or uncles instead of their own parents. So this can happen with or without legal custody changes. So it happens in migration, family struggles, like issues like teenage pregnancy, substance use, illness, divorce, or others. So an example of this is when a teenager who's struggling with addiction may be unable to care for their child. So the child is placed with the grandparents, and the solution of this is when children can stay with their parents, but it comes with many challenges for the caregivers. Still, it helps keep kids in the family loop, which can be beneficial for everyone involved. Lastly, we have the Erikson stage of generativity versus stagnation. It involves contributing to society and guiding the next generation. So, generativity versus stagnation. So, generativity is engaging in kinship care or supporting adult children can foster a sense of generativity as individuals contribute to their family's well-being. Stagnation is an emptiness syndrome or caregiver burnout can lead to feelings of stagnation if individuals fail to find new roles or meaning after their caregiving responsibilities changes. So this stage is part of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, which happens during middle adulthood around ages 40 to 65. So it's all about how people balance their desire to make a meaningful contribution to society with the risk of feeling stuck or unfulfilled. So generativity is the positive side of this stage. So it refers to the desire to give back, make difference, and guide to the next generation. So people who achieve generativity focus on things like mentoring younger people, raising children, contributing to their communities, and creating something lasting like art, businesses, or charitable work. So for example, a professor who mentors students, a parent who raises successful children, or a community leader who starts a local nonprofit. And we also have here the negative side, which is the stagnation. So it occurs when a person feels stuck, unproductive, or disconnected from the world around them. So instead of contributing or helping others, they may focus too much on their own needs and become self-absorbed or isolated. It is the feeling of being stuck in one's life and not growing or improving. So an example of this is when an adult who feels like they've been accomplished nothing significant, or who isolates themselves from others because they feel disconnected. So Erikson's stage of generativity versus stagnation is about whether we contribute to society and leave a legacy or feel stuck and disconnected. So most people strive for generativity as it leads to a sense of fulfillment and a purpose in life.